Hey, Faye, how you doing, Lori? Kimberly, how is everybody? Yes, I thought you were frozen, blaming it all on you, and you were waiting for
No,
me.
I'm moving. I'm moving.
And there's my main
Everybody working? Is everybody working on their Christmas, their, excuse me, holiday music? Yes. Yeah.
holiday music. And
We're gonna
Edward was here before anyone. I saw you, Edward, early on. So it's the holiday times, and I know my students have to start in the summer. And
we're gonna
Edward was here before. We
I'm
really want
what's that, Robin?
I said
I
we
think
really want to encourage everybody. If you haven't started, let's go. Don't sleep it. Don't play a bad silent night in the corner of the restaurant. Y'all know what I mean? Because someone's always listening. It's such a beautiful time, and it's our time to kind of convince people why they should hire us throughout the year.
and I also have to say that even very early on when I started to play, I would make little recordings like cassettes way back when and send them out at Christmas. People love it at Christmas or just playing for them. Yeah. Well, I was going to say over the phone, but now you have Zoom, just getting a little short program together to play for your friends. It's so appreciated at the holidays. It really is. So we have a list we're going to put up in just a second, but I'm very excited you're here today. I played the Nutcracker for years, but I played it in Richmond where they used two harps. So I never had to sweat out the cadenza. I'd be like filing my nails while the first harpist was sweating, except when she got sick. Of course, that was always a little hairy. But I think you're really going to enjoy Mindy today. She obviously, literally, she's probably played it close to 1,000 times, but she wanted, I know, isn't that incredible, Kimberly? But she wanted to be accurate. She didn't want it. So she knows she's played it at least 800 times. Can you believe it? Hi, Pam. Yeah, so she has lots of stories and some background about it, and all that good stuff. So Katie is going to share. We and she'll put this in the chat too. But this very kind of just we just threw this up, threw it together. There are some arrangements out there of the Nutcracker where you don't need 40 other people, like Mindy does. Mindy needs a Mindy needs a crowd. But if Katie can get that up, and once again, it'll be in the chat, and we can also send it to you. There are a few variations. Here we go. I mean, a few, not variations, a few arrangements. Can we post, we share that, screen share it, Katie? So we can just show them,
Maybe
talk.
do anything.
Katie, are you there? I see her. Oh, she is. There we go.
Yeah, I could see her. She was
There we go.
getting
That's
shared.
me. That's close. We're getting closer. No, not quite. There it
There
is. All
it
right. So,
is.
okay. So the collections, there's a whole wonderful collection out, Famous Music for the Harp, Volume 8. It's a specific volume where this arranger it's intermediate, has a lot of the different selections, and that's at Harp Column Music. The Nutcracker Suite by Susan Peters and Charlie Bird. Robin, did you know about this one? I did not know about this one.
That one, no, and their stuff I used to have from long ago, so I'm sure it's
I
in
know.
right that way file because they still almost had the manuscript writing type with their music. Y'all remember where it looked like somebody had just written it in magic markers, but so good because they have a lot of fancy, a lot of jazz arrangements that they have published. So I know it's great. But
Yeah,
I
and
love
I think
Pop It Easy because it's easy.
this one is scored too, so you don't have to read the manuscript. But a one that is so much fun that I'm sure you can find one of the examples or one of the arrangements you can play is the Pop and Easy, the Nutcracker ballet selections, which you can get at harp.com by Eleanor Fell. If you're not familiar with them, my students just absolutely love them. So you might
And
want to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Go
so you
ahead.
might want to, but I want to respond. Someone asked, were there any recommendations for intermediate players and things like that? One of the things I will say to you and challenge you on is when you look at like Eleanor Fell's Poppin' Easy, her Nutcracker selections, yeah, they're popping easy, but guess what? You might have that one chance to really get it up to tempo. Like sometimes because we can play a lot of notes, we get a lot of notes and we're like flustering all over. I say sometimes get the easier versions and then add to it as you can, but wouldn't it be cool to whip through it up to tempo? You
And
know,
Lori,
instead of you know how we do.
the other two are the Nutcracker Suite, the Bird, Peters, and definitely check out the one on Harp Column Music. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Those are intermediate for sure. Just today in Harp Column, they picked their Arabian Dance with a different arranger. You might want to check that out. Our own Katie Cook has an arrangement of the Trepic for lever harp on the Atlanta website, if you want to check that out. And Anne Sullivan, Harp Mastery, has a wonderful waltz of the flowers with lots of different variations of the cadenza, easy, hard, and you can find that on her Harp Mastery website. And then underneath that, we have just general holiday collections, just to kind of give you guys a little nudge. There's a new one out that Rhett really loves, the Yuletide Cheer by Philip Hayden, and he said it's just a little different. It's he said they add some little unique things. You can read the rest of his. He likes the I think it's Vicky Collingsworth.
Yep,
And yep. And then there's two of Sunita's on here. How many of you play Sunita? I'm sure a lot of you use Sunita's in her Christmas Eve book is the most beautiful arrangement of In the Bleak Midwinter. It's just wonderful.
Nice.
Then go ahead. So, Robin, take it away on David's.
Sorry, Noel. Now, of course, come on, you guys. That Charlie Brown Christmas, and it's got for lever and pedal harp. And that is just a lot of fun because we know it, and you get Lucille and Linus. And Rhett wouldn't really promote it, but that Christmas serenade, especially if you do any type of background music, you can literally, that's 45 minutes, I can tell you, just going through the book without it seeming like you're playing the same old songs. And I think Kim Robinson's, of course, is the gift that keeps on giving. Once again, intermediate, Ray Poole's Winter Wonderland, for the people looking for intermediate arrangements, it's right there. A lot of pedals, a lot of different arrangements. We had Amanda Whiting, so her Jazzy Christmas, it's I'd say it's low intermediate, right? Like, and up.
Yeah, and she has some original in there, but she's got a nice God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. I'm sorry, Good King. No, God Rest You Merry Gentlemen. I get those two confused. And what I'm doing is hers is kind of jazzy. It's in the same key as Ray Poole in his, I'm sure a lot of you have his medley book. And I'm found a way to kind of switch back and forth because his is very kind of somber and hers is jazzy. So that's been kind of fun to kind of take that and go back and forth. But she also has some originals in there that I'm sure some of you remember her because we've had her on a couple times and she is just fun and her music is fun. And it looks to me, is it 4 o'clock already? Oh my goodness.
It is already, can you believe it? And yes, this list will be put in the chat. Somebody asked that. And
yes, it'll be in the chat.
The Eleanor Fell has a Poppin' Easy Christmas, and there are some there's a Hanukkah arrangement in there. And is there anyone that can put in the chat who's got the real handle on their favorite Hanukkah arrangements? Because I believe Sunita has some, but
one small correction. The Sunita Stanislow book is Star of Wonder, and I'm going to correct that in the PDF as well.
Okay.
That would be me. I'm sorry. Star of Wonder, not Star of Noel. Okay, so yes, that will be in the chat, and call Atlanta Harp Center for anything that has AHC. Oh, Sunita's Hanukkah book. That's right. She has just a Hanukkah book. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Definitely. So, all right, so on to today's presentation. Last month, we had the pleasure of hosting Janet Whitman. We had a lot of wonderful comments.
What about trivia?
What's that?
Trivia.
Oh, how could I forget the trivia? Okay, it's a little complicated today. Hang in there. I will see. I'm sure Mindy knows the answer to this one. Marius Petipa was the original Nutcracker choreographer. He gave Tchaikovsky extremely detailed directions when he was composing the Nutcracker, specific lengths and tempos of each piece and how they should feel. So for the Sugar Plum Fairy solo, he requested Tchaikovsky to conjure up, and I'm quoting here, drops of water shooting out of fountains. So to achieve this effect, Tchaikovsky used a relatively unknown instrument that had been invented just 6 years prior to the Nutcracker debut in 1892. So the first person that places that instrument gets the correct answer either on Zoom or Facebook gets our ever popular Hanging with the Harp mug. Do you have yours, Robin? By the way, look where Robin is. Robin is actually, her background is the Pennsylvania Ballet. She is right there. Maybe Mindy's in the pit, who knows? Anyway, so that's today's question. Now I will go on to introduction. I just wanted to say last month we had the wonderful Janet Whitman, who will actually be part of our festival, which we'll talk about later in March. But today we have the other half of her principally harp duos, and that is Mindy Cutcher. And I had the pleasure of meeting Mindy when we opened our New Jersey store, although she's originally from Baltimore and studied with both Eileen Mason and later Alice Shalafu. She moved to Philadelphia when she was 28 and 6 months later won the audition to be principal harp with the ballet. And Mindy, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about all that, and we want to welcome you and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I just want to say, Robin, I love your background, and I want to know how you found that, because that's very cool. My background,
tell
I have a
everybody
few
what it
Nutcrackers
is.
in my background. I had to.
I had to get to the ballet for Mindy,
I
so
love it.
this is your house, Mindy.
I love it. I love it. Well, when I was talking to MJ earlier today, she said, "Do you have any kind of story about, like why you want to play and be in the ballet?" And I said, "Well, it's funny. Before I was ever a harpist, I was taken to the ballet. Mom took me to the ballet. I was in a balcony seat. It wasn't Philadelphia. This was Baltimore, where I'm from. And I remember watching more of the harpists than watching what was happening on stage. I was fascinated, and I would watch and I'd say, oh, look, she's going to pull it back again, and she's going to start playing it again. And I was just fascinated at how much she played in it. And here, like years later, I am playing in the ballet. So it's very ironic. That was one of the first times I saw harp being performed. I know I've seen other places, but that really struck me. And it's funny that I'm doing this years later.
I think they call that serendipity.
Yes, exactly. And I do love playing with the ballet. I do. I know that MJ was introducing me. I want to just do a shout out to the Philadelphia Ballet that I am a part of, and I've been a part of it almost 30 years. You were saying, I know in the materials it says she's played for 30 years. It's almost. Next December will be my 30th season of the Nutcracker. So that's why I have played it countless times. They actually just celebrated their 60th anniversary, and we had a gala last month. It was a really big deal, and I'm so lucky because so many ballets have gotten rid of their live music. And they don't even have any live music. They don't have orchestras or anything. They use all recordings. And we are just so lucky that this organization wants to, promote live music. And they really do. So I feel really fortunate that I am still doing this for this many years. If you want me, MJ, do you want me to just start talking right away about, or do you want me to start with some other stories?
Well, we'll get to stories, but
Okay.
Mindy, when we talked about what she was going to do, she said, I'd really like to talk a little bit about how harp works in ballet in general. And I thought that would definitely be fascinating. So yeah, and she has a nice little handout, which I think you all have. But yeah, let's start with that, and then we'll morph into specific Nutcracker stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. I wanted to start out just by about playing an ensemble in general. Obviously, a lot of people won't be playing in a ballet specifically, but you're going to be playing with other people, whether it's in an orchestra or maybe accompanying your choir or with an organist or maybe in a harp ensemble. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the things you need to do to prepare a little bit, for that. I think the most important thing really is to make sure that counting comes before anything else, because you don't want to be playing in the wrong place. You want to make sure that you concentrate on all the important parts. Where does the harp stick out? Because that's what you're going to be practicing more than anything else. I always listen to a recording, and I would suggest that. It's really nice we have YouTube now, because now you can find anything and listen to it pretty much. And so not only do I listen to it, but I try to play along when I can, because entrances are so important. And and it's also really important, talking about a metronome, that tempos are really important. And what you hear on the recording may not be the tempo when you get there. So just make sure you practice whatever you're doing in many tempos. And also think about things like, I know a lot of students might have something in cut time and they'll practice it in 4 when it's actually in 2. And you need to make sure you're prepared for that ahead of time. Also know that you have to tune well, right? So many of us know that a perfect A is 440, but just remember that a lot of orchestras tend to go high, and a lot of us, we tune to 441 or 442. I was just doing a concert with an organist, and of course an organ can't move. So I had to make sure what the organ was set at, and they were set at 438. So I had to tune to that. So you have to always make sure you got to think about who you're playing with. Now, if you're playing with a small ensemble, obviously they're going to tune to you. If you're playing with a flutist, you give them the A and they tune to you rather than vice versa, because you're the one that's a little more difficult to change, obviously. So that's like the basic things about playing in an orchestra. Really is making sure that you can play in any tempo, that you can practice playing even in the rests. I mean, think about when you're playing in orchestra, you're not playing all the time. There's plenty of times that you have to count rests, and you can sit simulating practicing that, and you can simulate a lot of what you do at home, what you're going to be doing there. So you want to set up at home practicing like, here's my stand in front of me. I'm going to practice so I can look up and be able to see a conductor. So many people are staring at their harp or they're staring at their music and they're not aware of the other things going on, and you have to be able to blend really well. I also feel like for ensemble playing, you have to practice playing loud. So many people, when I have students or people come for coachings, they play some excerpt for me and it's awfully soft. And I'll say, well, when you get there, you're really going to want to play a lot more boldly, right? You can't play timidly, and you have to make sure that things like the bass notes are really coming out. So you really want to, you can even record yourself. That's the other good thing about tech, because we can record ourselves on our phones now and play it back and see what it actually sounds like to other people, right? So that's the first thing about playing in an ensemble. But then you take it a step further. Playing in a pit is even more different, because I'm playing in the dark, basically, and I'm playing with just one stand light. And for those of you that have played in a pit, you know what I'm talking about. It's like you get in a pit and then you realize like, oh, I can't really see these top notes up here. So you really have to be able to practice well and expect that. So I would say that practicing in a dark room is probably a good idea. And also really being able to practice whatever you're practicing fast. Make sure you can do it fast and loud. Make sure that you can go right to another number. I can tell you with ballet playing, the music never stops. So even though we have these successive numbers, yeah, sometimes there's clapping, but a lot of times we're even playing like through the clapping, and we keep playing, and it's what they call a tacca. So we just keep playing, and you have to sort of simulate this at home. You've got to have your pedals ready. You have to have the page turns really quick and practice that. There's so many, there's one of the things on the handout that says VS, you know, and then you take that a step further. Sometimes you really do it so quickly. I've written hurry with an exclamation point, and I'm like really making sure that I'm like ready for the next number. I tend to memorize a lot of things, especially cadenzas, and I'm sure all of you are the same way with whatever kind of important thing like that. You just want to have it in your fingers. You don't want to have to rely on reading the music. So I'll get back to that too, because there's specifically in Nutcracker, there's a few things I actually have memorized, and it's just easier than doing that than reading the music. It's funny how, you know, just playing through it just recently, I was thinking, I still need the music. And it's more of a crutch probably, but I'm just really used to reading music when I play, even though I've played it for so long. I probably don't actually need the music, but you know, that's how it is now. So I was going to also talk a little bit about playing specifically for Nutcracker, how I prepare. Like right now, it's November. We don't start for another couple of weeks. We only have one rehearsal, by the way. We have one orchestra rehearsal. We have one dress rehearsal. So we really have to be very prepared. And for a normal run, we usually only have 2 rehearsals. So, you know, a really huge ballet like Swan Lake, we're still only getting 2 rehearsals. And you had to be super prepared and super ready to adapt too, because you just never know what's going to happen with ballet music. But, you know, this month, what I did is I changed all my strings because, you know, I don't want to have to change strings in the pit if I can help it. It's happened. Of course, I change the strings if they break, but, you know, might as well change them every November, knowing that my harp is going to stay at the Academy of Music for an entire month. And that's how I get ready. I toughen my fingers. So I think a lot of you know this big gliss that happens. I'm just getting my pedals ready. There's a big gliss that happens in the last number of Act 1, this one, right? So, and it's loud. And I don't know if a lot of you know about Nutcracker parts, but Tchaikovsky wrote F, FF, FFF, and FFFF. And that's my choice. So this one happens to be 4 Fs, and they want it so loud. I am ripping the strings off, and so I just get my fingers ready. I don't necessarily have to play this one, but I just do a lot of glisses before December because I have so many glisses. I'm playing both Harp 1 and Harp 2, and I'm switching off with the glisses. And since I have to do so many, I don't want to get blisters. So I'm doing this gliss. You know, the one that you see in Act 1, that's the one that's so super loud, and I have to make sure that I can do that. There's many, many glisses, as you know, in Nutcracker. So I
Mindy, do you ever use
in that way before I even get to the ballet.
Do you ever use picks there, Mindy?
Pardon?
Mindy, do you ever use picks there? Felt picks?
I do. But I think, as you know, and maybe, you know, MJ has played the Nutcracker, and I'm sure Robin has too. A lot of us professionals have played Nutcracker. That there are certain places you cannot use a pick because you're playing immediately after, like immediately before, immediately after. When I can, there are a couple of places I use picks, yes, and they're felt picks, yeah, to save my fingers. But there's enough places I can't, you know, that I still have to have my fingers all toughened up. So when I'm preparing at the gig, I make sure that I'm just really, really warmed up well. And so even though I know all my notes now, it's really not about preparing the notes anymore. It's just making sure my fingers are ready to play loud and fast. So I was going to play a little bit of one of the numbers in Act 1, and this is one of the numbers that I play to warm up with. This is number 8 in Act 1. And I think MJ referred to this as the first pas de deux. So this is what I'm going to be showing you. This is what I warm up with. Lends itself well for as a warm-up, and of course I'm not playing this when I'm warming up. I'm not playing this at full volume. I usually am playing this slow and soft, and I kind of build it up. I am also doing a lot of things when I'm warming up, like turnarounds and
so Mindy, can I just ask a question about that last one? Yeah. Those of you that are familiar with the Nutcracker, could you hear that melody in the background? If you can, go to number 8 just after the hang is over. And I was hearing it in the background. I thought maybe Mindy will sing it for us, but there's a
yeah, it comes in. There's a little bit of an intro, and then you hear it. You hear it. I'm not gonna sing. But yeah, listen to that. And the harp is very exposed there, so it's really good to be warmed up. And this it's interesting too, because the harp has quite a bit of tacits. And for those of you that don't know what a tacit is, this is just a number or a section that you don't play. And there's actually a bunch of tacits before this number. All of a sudden, you have to be playing, and you have to sound like you're really warmed up when you've just been sitting there. So it can be a little tricky. So another way that I warm up, obviously you can warm up with any part of the Nutcracker, but really doing those hand over hand arpeggios is really good to warm up with, because if you are cold at all, really hard to get those hands up. So, if you're doing like maybe the beginning of the Nutcracker cadenza, like everybody knows this. Right? Everybody knows that famous arpeggio. And so one way to practice this is just practice it going one direction. And you can keep practicing it faster and faster in one direction. And just do it again. Right? And keep practicing this going up. Then you can practice going down. You can also practice it with cluster chords, and this is just a good way to just get your arms moving around. Right? And you can practice the turnaround at the top, because I would say this is the thing that really messes people up with evenness, is practicing the turnaround at the top. And then after you go one way, you do your clusters, you do your turnaround, then you do the whole thing. And I obviously didn't warm it up enough.